All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone who is tuned into our webinar. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to join our webinar about utilizing digitalization to meet regulatory compliance. I'm your moderator, Nick Azad, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with two of my fellow Parsec colleagues, Corey Vodvarka, our manufacturing expert and resident Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, and one of our software applications engineers, Penwell Chow. To quickly bring you up to speed on who Parsec is, we've been in business for over 30 years with a dedicated focus exclusively on developing manufacturing operations management software, which you will hear us abbreviate MOM. As our TrakSYS solution platform is designed to measurably help our customers without the need for disruption and major infrastructure overhaul. TrakSYS has been deployed in thousands of locations in over 100 different countries. We've helped customers in a variety of industries, food and beverage, pharmaceutical, CPG, and aerospace, to name a few, to significantly improve their manufacturing operations. Now, as before, we reached out to a handful of our customers in advance of this webinar to get a gauge on common issues around compliance, as well as topics of interest. To address the information, we will begin by discussing the challenges we heard, follow that up with a demonstration of how TrakSYS helps to solve those issues, and then end with an open Q&A session. So Corey, to kick things off, the first question that I have for you, how can companies benefit from digitalization as part of their regulatory compliance strategy?
So industries like pharma, medical devices, and food and beverage, they're required to maintain records for compliance and audits under a variety of government regulations. This alone can be very administratively intensive and slow down the operation from producing and delivering products. It adds a lot of complexity that can often be distracting to the operators that are producing these products. Digitalization not only makes the information accessible in real time, but it significantly reduces the administrative load of capturing, gathering, and analyzing data as well as compliance records. By connecting directly to testing equipment and automation, records can be automatically populated, saving time and reducing errors in the process of data collection. Validation and approval processes can also happen more timely. Oftentimes, records need to be reviewed after the production process. So this allows things to happen much quicker with accessibility to the information and allow for some of that validation to actually happen while the production process is going on. So it helps reduce the time that materials are being held and sit around before the distribution of the products.
So why haven't more companies then embraced converting to electronic records?
So there's some perceived roadblocks that many companies need to overcome. The first thing is islands of data exist in many organizations, and because of this, many people use the approach of paper travelers to follow the product through the various stages of production. This can often result in records that are incomplete, illegible, inaccurate, and untimely. In some cases, you may actually lose the paperwork somewhere along the way, delaying the production process. To many, it looks like a monumental task to go digital. So connecting to existing systems today and gathering data is way easier than ever with IoT devices and the availability of digitalization on the plant floor. As well, the approaches can be gradual, so you don't have to take a big bang approach to become fully digitized. You can take a step-by-step process, which makes it easier and has a much more likelihood of success. As well, guidelines now exist like 21 CFR Part 11 to work as a roadmap for successful compliance. These guidelines define the criteria under which electronic records and electronic signatures are considered trustworthy, reliable, and equivalent to paper records.
So What might an electronic compliance solution look like?
So there's a few different approaches. One method would be a paper on glass approach. This often starts with paper forms being converted to digital with a very similar look and feel to the original paper form. In this scenario, much of the data is still entered manually, but while this is taking place, software can auto-populate some of the fields like usernames, times, and dates, so the operator doesn't need to do that repetitively. But more importantly, the entries can be immediately verified for entry errors or incompleteness, so immediate feedback can be provided to the user. This allows the user to make corrections immediately, adding a greater level of accuracy to the data.
Mm-hmm.
Another method is a more dynamic approach using workflows. In this scenario, error-proofing controls can be put in place to prevent a process from continuing until work has been properly completed at each step. This method is often accompanied by connecting to processing and test equipment to trigger execution of work sequences and automatically populate the records. So this allows significant reduction in administrative burden on the equipment operators and gives them more time to focus on using the system feedback to optimize the processes.
Mm-hmm.
As there's a need for additional context, electronic data like material consumption information, machine conditions, processing parameters, and inspection results can also be easily captured. This provides a full traceability record to help determine root causes if problems happen.
So the last question that I have for you, how can an electronic record solution help you comply with an audit?
So organizations that have gone digital have experienced records that are much more accurate and complete. Managing and archiving paper records can really be a job all in itself. So without having to dig through filing cabinets or having to request a delivery from a third-party document storage service, information is really readily accessible at any time. So it's much more easy to access information during the audit and leading up to the audit. As well, digitalization provides better controls for managing changes to the process, and it enables the ability to capture an audit trail of changes to the system as well as the records.
Mm-hmm.
So before we jump into the demonstration, I want to start with a little background on the architecture of the TrakSYS MOM platform. TrakSYS uses a real-time logic service to communicate with automation on the plant floor through OPC and structured data files, and a data management service to communicate with third-party business systems like ERP systems, maintenance CMMS systems, and quality systems. This enables TrakSYS to empower its users to execute tasks and workflows across the value stream while providing actionable intelligence. This allows users to interact with user interfaces and further contextualize data as they carry out manufacturing and business processes. As I mentioned, TrakSYS can be accessed through any web interface. Since it's built on HTML5, all the screens are responsive to a variety of mobile device sizes, whether you're using a cell phone, a tablet, or a computer interface screen. By enabling mobility, it allows executives, managers, and operators to be provided the visibility, knowledge, and control they need to achieve their operational goals. I now want to turn things over to Penuel. He'll be taking us through a live demonstration on how TrakSYS can digitize record keeping and improve your regulatory compliance.
Thanks, Corey. Today, we're going to be looking at our environment, Orange County Vitamin. This is a plant that produces vitamin, and it's based on real implementations and has been adjusted for demo purposes. We're going to walk through the environment to show the concepts of compliance. Batching is a great place to start. Shows a lot about accountability, traceability, and historization. So on the top menu here, I'm going to head over to our batching section. And the screen that you see here is an overview screen you might see on a plant floor, showing the different statuses of lines. So the status of line 1 and line 2. We are going to dive deeper into line 1. Already on the screen, we have pre-configured data and a job running. But to start off, on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see pertinent information like, of course, the job that's running, product that we're trying to produce, including alerts, steps, and then automated data such as labor, who's actually working on it, tasks, and journals, in addition to critical parameters at the bottom. So the whole concept of batching relies around recipes, and recipes are a great way to have things be able to keep compliant. On the left-hand side, I'm going to click on the steps button to get a better visualization of how a recipe can be managed. On the screen, it's very easy to see the exact steps for the recipe. So say an operator is going through his daily workday and he's looking at this and seeing, all right, these are the steps that I have to continue on to finish my job. It's really easy for an operator to mess up if it's not visualized like this. When it's pretty simple and the steps are shown directly, including important information like the state, duration, pretty hard for the operator to mess up. That way we can ensure that we have an accurate record, and of course, accurate records and correct steps mean a better product. We can even go deeper. So for this specific step, we have a load blender. We can actually click on the materials itself and actually go ahead and put in information directly relating to that step in regards to materials. If we wanted to, we can go under here and see, all right, we have micro cellulose with 5 kilograms that's needed, and we only have 4.98. So the operator can go in here and click on add. And this is the part that differs for a lot of different implementations. So of course, you have automation, whether you have a scale or an automatic weigher, we can actually go in here, actually scan the amount in. We're simply going to put 0.02 to match that 5, get what lot number it's coming from, and then be able to put in a username and a password. I want to take a quick pause and talk about the validation here. So validation is another huge part about compliance. TrakSYS has a lot of different ways of doing validation. So for example, in here we can see we have a username and a password, making sure we know which operator is actually working on, and to ensure that we have accurate records. I'm going to go ahead and click on add in here. And now you can see that we have exactly the amount needed for this certain material. As a matter of fact, we can actually look on the right-hand side and see that the materials added by this user, C. Harvey, and then myself here, along with the lot number it came from and the time as well. This demonstrates a little bit of the track and traceability and accountability. Let's go ahead and go back to the main line and take a quick look at critical parameters. So while we've been talking and doing this demonstration for you, TrakSYS has been able to keep track of these critical parameters. For example, we're doing a blender load, but for those who might be working in some healthcare environment or food safety, maybe you need to have an oven to be a certain temperature, making sure your food is regulated. TrakSYS can store a lot of that information. You can see when you're going out of spec and be able to make comparisons if people have problems. You can check and that your records are correct and you did not go out of line for those critical parameters. So TrakSYS is fully capable of doing historization. All right, so we just went a little bit over about historization. Let's talk a little bit more about track and traceability. We just went through a bunch of recipes, talking about how we can put in materials and what lots they come from. Let's get a better visualization of that. I'm going to go ahead and click on warehouse in the top here. And on the left-hand side, we can see item tracking and location tracking. Speaks for itself, but item tracking is trying to track where a specific item is. And then location tracking is maybe seeing your warehouse, or maybe seeing your staging, or maybe seeing your production, and seeing what items are located in that. Get a better demonstration of track and traceability, I can click on work in process. And these are items that are currently being made. So we have a tote that is comprised of this adjuvable compound, a lot of good information like lot, quantity. At any time, I can click on this track button and dive deeper and see item history, including actions. So whether I did a cycle count, I'm moving it to the line, moving it to the supermarket, and even going down deeper to consumption records for that specific adjuvable compound. I can see that I used maltodextrin, even iron fish oil, what lots they came from, and even who actually inputted that information. If I wanted to go even deeper, I can actually click on that specific material and get all that same information, including information like validation date, expiration date, lot, sublot, and what items and batches actually consumed this material of maltodextrin. A lot of this stuff can be automated as well, but to show a manual example, I'm going to go in here and click on Update Item and pretend that I am scanning in an item. An operator might be able to scan this item, click on Load, and say that we are going to be moving this item to our staging section. Another way of our doing validation, we showed usernames and passwords. This time, we're actually just grabbing it from the session, so whatever user is currently logged in, I'm using the administrator user. So TrakSYS has already filled this out for me. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And then when I go to my location tracking and click on Staging, I can actually see that I can see it already made and the record with accurate data, including who moved it, the amount, lot, and the timestamp as well. All right, so that was a lot about track and traceability. Corey was saying earlier, we have a lot of tasks that go on during the environment, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Do Packaging to demonstrate tasking. Packaging shows us much the same things as batching. Line 1, line 2, these are just simple statuses for an overview screen. We're going to go click on line 1. For those who are familiar, the screen you see here is primarily geared toward discrete systems, so making actual products. And the big thing on this is that we can see a lot of key performance indicators, such as OEE, availability, performance, and quality. However, something that people strive to work for when they're going through production is being in that steady state, making sure that your line is continuously running. A mountain that people need to cross is that you have a lot of different downtimes, whether this is changeover, whether this is just taking a lunch, or of course something worse such as your machine actually breaking down. TrakSYS has the ability to either manually or automatically grab that data and gives operators the ability to acknowledge those events in real time. So for example, I can see that my wrapper is out of wrapping material, casers, printer errors, general faults. I can at any time click on acknowledge and be able to categorize these. And categorize them gives context to these problems. As long as I can give context in real time while the production is currently happening, I might be able to have a better product and better quality at the end of the day. But primarily, we are going to be looking at our tasking. So for example, we have different tasks up here. So we have like a hopper. We can click on at any time and be able to grab information if we have a task. And we can also, TrakSYS also has the ability to put in SOPs as well. So while we're going through tasks, these are just PMs for now for maintenance, but if you wanted to, you can also grab information for a task such as SPC analysis. So if you have SPC, if you wanted to, you can also attach other systems. If you have a weigher or a scale that automatically grabs information every time, say every 30 bottles, and you're trying to grab the weights of those, TrakSYS can actually grab all that and head into the SPC category and run all those control points in real time. All those points in real time, if you want to see violations, you're out of spec for those specific purposes, you can go ahead and find out, all right, since my product is out of spec, the operator can go back at any time and be able to change things as needed. Oftentimes during production, SPC is usually done at the end of the day. Since TrakSYS is in real time, like I said earlier, be able to help the quality, be able to maybe save the production, and then be able to save all the products, saving you time and money. All right, so that just went over SPC a little bit. Let's quickly talk about quality in general. Another great way to visualize tasking is in a workflow procedure. So those who are doing GMP, good manufacturing practice, with equipment cleaning, oftentimes you need to make sure different parts need to be signed off before you can move on to the next task. This is a great way to visualize that we have a bunch of parts. For example, up here we have our hopper needing a cleaning, then we need to visually inspect the parts, wiping the rotary head, wiping the punch, etc. Anytime an operator can click on his respective task and be able to do validations such as signatures, PIN numbers, notes. Of course, we have the SOP stored in the TrakSYS, as well as being able to complete it. If you wanted to, you can also have your supervisor sign off, and once that's complete, it can unlock the next step, making sure that your cleaning procedure is not only done in a timely fashion, but accurately as well. Let's talk a little about electronic records. So Corey was saying earlier, a lot of the people who do electronic records end up doing them on paper and then filing them away in some cabinet somewhere. So if you have complaints that come in, for example, let's just say we have complaints on our product of Gisplin 500. Had a lot of complaints on this, and then you, who filed it in some cabinet somewhere, has to go through and dig through all that information, wasting hours. Could take a lot of time. However, with this information, we can see information on our recent complaints, tie that together with our jobs. And when we look at our jobs, we can even create charts and be able to see, all right, 3614 was the job that had the most problems. If you're doing electronic batch records and digitizing all your information, it's easily available at your fingertips. I can just click on scan, put in 3614, load up the job, and even click on the overview and see color-coded information on why that specific product may have had a problem. If I wanted to, I can go into the batch information, look at specific parts with overages, or I can go into my material consumptions, going back to the track and traceability, and even see that maybe this alternate for the material is what actually caused my problems and why people are complaining. Taking all that information and putting that together, I can go ahead and create a CAPA form if I wanted to, and be able to put in the correct people who maybe worked on it. Say Corey Vodvarka was the one who messed up. I can go ahead and click on save, and it will actually create an instant notification. This notification I can send to Corey or the other team members, and making sure that they can see it in a timely fashion. All right, let's quickly talk about change management and how that works within TrakSYS. I'm going to go ahead and click onto administration here, and we're going to briefly look over the different users and roles. To start off, users include Windows users and TrakSYS users, meaning that if you are in a network environment and you have Active Directory or Windows domain, you can create users for all of those users without having to go through and creating one individually. You can just grab things off your Active Directory. Looking into roles, as here we have a bunch of different roles, including maintenance workflow, operators, and supervisors. When I go into a workflow user or a general operator, I can click on page permissions and actually see that this specific user, a maintenance worker, has access to a lot of the things in maintenance. If you wanted to, you can change page permissions to specific pages, and you can even dive deeper to being able to edit, delete, read data, as well as edit, delete, and reading configuration. Thus, if you have an operator who should not be able to look at reports, you can hide that report specifically if you want it for the page, or of course, make sure that he can't edit data. This goes hand in hand with change management, as we want to make sure that people are not able to edit items that they should not be able to edit. And lastly, let us talk about auditing. Auditing plays a huge role in compliance, and TrakSYS can audit every single aspect and every entity in the environment. I'm going to go really, really deep and head into packaging or products. We're going to go to our products, and we're going to go into a specific recipe. Even deeper in the recipe, we'll actually be heading into materials, and we'll be looking at this maltodextrin. And anytime you can click on audit trail, and TrakSYS has the ability to track every time any configuration is changed. In this example, we have an insert. So when it was first created by the user N Azad, we'll head to audit details, and we can see that when it was created, the date and time, who did it, the ID, as well as the quantity and information such as that. I can go back and see that our user C Gray updated this, click on audit details, and see that the original value was 2, and now the new value is 1, as well as what time the user actually did this. This is an option, so you can turn on audit trail if you want to be CFR 21 Part 11 compliant, as well as if you don't want any of this to be tracked, you can do that as well. In addition to changing in general, you can make it so that changes can only happen when a supervisor signs off, as well as reflect all that in the audit trail itself. And lastly, for those in regulated environments who need to have different servers for production and development, if you wanted to test things in your development before pushing it to the official server, TrakSYS is also compliant with that as well. To demonstrate this, we have an exact mirror of our current one we're looking at, except this is our development environment. Easy to tell because we've changed the color scheme of this into a gray theme, and the current one is a blue theme. Thus, whenever you're ready and you've made sure and you've tested out your environment, you can go ahead and push the development environment onto the live environment, maybe when you are not in production. And that about does it for the demonstration.
Thanks, Manuel, for walking us through the demonstration. We've seen just a bit about what TrakSYS can do to connect to a variety of data sources and allow you to seamlessly capture digital compliance records. So TrakSYS is a unified MOM platform capable of delivering a variety of different solutions beyond what we've seen today. It allows you to really create a connection to all of your data flow and integrate your view across the enterprise. With that, we're going to jump into the Q&A portion of the webinar. Feel free to enter your questions into the GoToMeeting console on the right. If there's any questions we don't get to, we will make sure that we answer these, and those answers are sent out as well with a recording of the webinar following this presentation. So we're going to look at some of the questions here. The first question I have here is, are there ways to test system changes before they're made active in the production environment? The answer is yes. This is actually a really great question. The TrakSYS allows you to set up parallel pre-production server environments like a development and test environment. So the acceptable functions can be tested, made sure they're proper, and allow you to push those changes to the production environment after they've been tested and accepted. So you're not doing development in the production environment, risking potentially making an error or creating putting a new problem into the production process. So having that development and test environment allows you to do that testing in advance. Others that maybe do a lot of development and a lot of testing can also leverage a fourth environment called staging. And this just allows you to have another area to hold information before those changes are implemented in production without having to have any kind of interruptions to the development and testing process. The next question is, can TrakSYS connect to a document control system? So yeah, TrakSYS is capable of a few different options. It's able to store documents within the software, or if you have a third party or a external electronic document control system, maybe with your quality system, TrakSYS can supply things like hyperlinks to store documents so you can access what already exists in other systems. So the next question is, we've seen some complexity in the mouse and keyboard orientation of the screens. The question is it possible to use TrakSYS efficiently on touchscreen devices?
Definitely is possible. So I think Corey was mentioning earlier that TrakSYS is HTML5. Thus, all the screens that we have, they will boil down and change depending what you're using. So if you're on a phone or you're on a tablet, computer screen or TV, it will actually comply to your screen. But if you're worried about mouse, keyboard, making precise interactions, a lot of TrakSYS that we use also can be done using tiles. So a lot of the event acknowledgement we saw earlier we can pretty much use tiles to, in a sense, use as hyperlinks or change to different screens as well. So yes, it is possible to use TrakSYS efficiently on touchscreen devices.
As well, in demonstrations, we kind of have to do clicks and so forth because automating some of these workflow handoffs, if we don't have the clicks, you wouldn't see a demonstration. Things would just kind of magically happen. So in real life, utilization of touchscreens, barcode scanners, RFID can further automate the process, reducing the amount of clicks and so forth on the screen. So it's a much more likely process out in the factory versus what we show in demonstration. The next question is, can TrakSYS be used to demonstrate label weight claims? And the answer is yes. We touched a little bit upon this in our discussions with SPC, but there's a few different options depending on what is the sampling size that you're looking for to demonstrate the label weight claims. So one method, if you have a large sampling that you want to do, you can use the data historian to pull in values and get those average weights for the lot, as well as SPC, which uses more of a sampling instead of 100% check. The sampling allows you to also get averages for the lot as long as your regulation finds those acceptable. But it also allows you to really optimize the filling process to make sure that you're not overfilling and giving away product or underfilling. So those are both a couple options for making sure that you demonstrate your label weight claims. We have one more question. I'm gonna say it, but we'll kind of defer the question for later. The question is, how long is the implementation time? So no two implementations are really the same. So it's hard to really judge the timing. Depending upon your availability of information and automation out on your plant floor, the size of your plant, the number of different solutions you're looking to implement, that all affects the time of implementation. So I'd be happy to talk offline about your specific scope of work, and we can determine what's a reasonable time frame for you. But these aren't like ERP projects that take years to implement. We're talking weeks and months to implement areas of TrakSYS. There's one more question. Can SOPs be displayed inline per step during checkoff of certain process steps, or is the function link only?
SOPs can be displayed inline if you wanted to. So if you wanted to take all that information and put them on specific steps, you definitely can. But when you're saying functionality is link only, of course, TrakSYS can store all of the PDFs themselves if you wanted to in our database. But if you have another system, like another quality system that stores all that information, you can link it to there. But if you wanted to, you could grab that information and put them on each specific steps, almost like instructions. So earlier we were looking at that tasking workflow. You can click on each one, and if you wanted it to display the basic information on that SOP for each specific step, you can do that as well. So TrakSYS can house as a place to actually store the PDFs, or you could actually link it to another system to store that information there as well.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen, thank you for your time. We are going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you to everyone who wrote in and everyone that joined us here today. Just a reminder that the answers to all the questions we received, not just the ones that we covered, will be emailed out to you. If you have any questions for the Parsec team, please feel free to utilize the email address that's on screen. You can also always find out more about our platform, TrakSYS, on our website, www.parsec-corp.com/TrakSYS. Till next time, thanks again.